Right, we are here and we're not at the kitchen table.
We're not at the kitchen table. We are at someone's kitchen table from Facebook Marketplace.
Yes.
So thank you for that kitchen table.
In our brand new studio.
Yes.
Which
Welcome.
has been under development for the last 6-7 weeks.
Yeah, hence the break.
Yes, but the good thing is if you are watching us, hello.
Hello.
You can now see us as well as hear us. If that's
what a treat for all involved.
Yes.
I'm just fuming. I was thinking about this. This is the first time we've done a podcast where I've not been in my dressing gown with like pseudocreme on my spots.
You're supposed to not say that. You're supposed to say we're always prepared like this and we're always sat in a nice environment.
Yeah, so should we cut that bit out?
Yeah, probably just, yeah. We were just discussing before, how do the pros start their podcasts? So do they, basically, you were saying Tony Robbins runs around in circles.
No, he's bounces on a trampoline.
Okay, space over there. Trampoline incoming.
Can we get one of the floor built-in ones? Right, okay,
Yeah.
Anyway.
We should get to today's topic.
We should get to the point.
We wanted to talk today about a topic that comes up very, very often.
Yes.
And that topic is public speaking.
Probably the most requested topic or theme when people talk about coaching or development.
Yeah, it's almost like in some ways, I think it's like a gateway drug into coaching because it's usually the one problem that I think if you asked anybody, nobody's ever said to me, oh God, I love standing up in front of people and talking to people. At least nobody that hasn't done it a lot.
Yeah, without the practice.
That's it.
Yeah, and the evidence.
And at some point then it becomes something that people
but
like
it's
doing.
the highest ranked fear, higher than the fear of dying.
Well,
genuinely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Math's not mathing, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, this is from people that are still alive.
Yeah.
Apparently it ranks higher in certain studies than if you said to someone, what is your biggest fear? And you put a load on the board.
Snakes. What?
Sharks. Sharks and snakes. Thank God we live in Manchester. Public speaking, dying.
Right. Okay. So we chose a good topic, basically.
Yeah.
So do many of your coaching clients, is it a prominent?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that the main thing to start with here is this idea of public speaking, because I think when people think of public speaking, they think of TED Talks or Simon Sinek standing on a massive stage. No, public speaking can be let's break it down. Speaking in public. That's it. So public is 2 people in your office. Public is doing a presentation, a pitch to a board, whatever that might be. But also, whenever we talk about public speaking, we bundle in this idea of public speaking and presenting and basically some form of communication.
Right.
So some public speaking work that I do with people is one-to-ones, giving feedback, managers giving feedback, new team members sharing their ideas with senior team members.
Yes.
That's still presenting or sharing ideas or public speaking or communicating. So it's all bundled into one. It's not just selling out Wembley.
I was just pondering that in my head because when you said that, I think I'd much prefer to stand on a stage.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want to do a TEDx. If I did want to do a TEDx, and I'd prefer to stand there and do a TEDx than stand in front of 5 people.
100%.
Why is that?
Because you can see them, because you can gauge the reaction. They're closer to you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're in a big arena, there is what we call the fourth wall. There is a complete divide. So it's very much, it's still terrifying for a lot of people, 100%.
It still would be, yeah, but it's different. It's a different kind of terrifying. Like, it's almost like I'm supposed to be there if I was doing it on stage. Whereas if I stand up in the office to do a presentation on whatever, it's a bit more like, well, we work here and it's not a.
Yeah, but you've hit the nail on the head with it. You're standing up in the office. So who are the people around you? They know you.
Yeah.
There's emotional, social investment.
Right, yeah.
There's friendships, there's expectations,
So if it tanks, you're basically going to turn up next day at 9 a.m. and they're going to say to you 2 years later, I remember that time when you were, right, okay.
Yeah.
That's
so there's more to lose.
The difference, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of specific, I know what I've been on this journey, and obviously having you as a wife has been immensely useful on this journey.
Yeah, some would say probably soul relationship and founding points of our relationship.
But what are the most common issues that people face when discussing public speaking? Because there's the fear of it happening, right, which I think is universal, and that makes sense. But what is it people are, is there any specific, like, actually tangible issues that people face when they get up and speak?
Two parts.
Yeah.
there's the evidence that we see. So most people will say, I speak really quickly, I lose my train of thought.
Right.
Loads of erms, loads of fillers.
Yeah. On the erm thing, it kind of annoys me that most of the AI tools have a feature to remove erms, right? Which it feels like it's saying that there's a problem because someone is saying which I guess is probably useful in certain scenarios, but not as common as maybe I do it. But it also then just takes it away in the conversation. So if I was to do that now and I'd be like, this and that and this, and I ran it through the AI, well, it'd just cut the erms out, but it's not me in that mix. So I don't know where I'm going with that, but it just occurred to me then that it's literally that dedicated feature to remove erms and pauses. And that's like...
not natural.
No, but it's like the default option when you run these things through, audio.
Let's start there then. Let's start with the erms. So with erms, there's a couple of schools of thought. I love this with erms.
Okay.
So first of all, erms are completely natural. Erms or fillers. Some people use different words.
What words?
So depends where they're from.
Like,
so someone I was working with used, you know what I mean, all the time. So they'd talk about something, it'd be, you know what I mean. I was thinking, I don't know, but we'll crack on.
Right, okay, fine.
Erms are completely natural. They're completely normal. So the AI tool removing them is ultimately removing that natural speech pattern.
Yeah.
So I can't think of a simile or a metaphor or an example, but imagine you took away... If you're watching a film, high adrenaline film, and someone's talking and they've just done this car chase, but you can't hear the breath, you're like, well, that's weird. Or the other example is, and I always pick up on it when we watch films, if they're out in the wind or something, but the hair is absolutely immaculate, it's just not real.
It's not real.
And it just creates that divide of, oh, okay, them and us, it's not real.
Yeah.
So erms are completely natural. We have two schools of thoughts of where they come from.
Yeah, this is interesting. I don't know about this.
I think this is fascinating. The first, again, I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure there'll be research and evidence. But the first is the idea that when we were younger, when your parents spoke to you, of course, it always comes back to in your childhood. But when you were younger, when we were asked a question, where's your brother? What have you got? Have you eaten something? What's in your mouth? Or I'm just thinking about what we'd say to the dogs. What's in your mouth? Even things like registers at school, you had to answer your name. You had to respond. If the teacher asked you a question, you had to respond. Otherwise, there was potential consequences if you didn't.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Fast forward to adult life.
Yeah.
We're asked a question and our brain goes, respond. But you've not processed the question. You've not gone through your mental filing cabinet to find out the answer. So we go,
So it's a way of responding without responding.
Yeah.
But actually, there's never a... Yeah, okay, right. That makes some sense. What's the second one?
Second one, I think, is the one that I see all the time, and this is the way that most people I work with get rid of or eliminate excessive use of erms. And I think that's the main point. Yeah. Erms are normal, totally natural, as you've said. If an AI tool removes it, it sounds strange.
Yeah.
Totally normal. They're a normal speech pattern. If you remove them completely, it's weird. It's when there's too many of them. And it's every other word.
Because what I found is when I've done it and when I've seen people do it, it starts off the first few minutes and it might have like, let's come up with a erm per minute ratio. It might be 5, but then as the nerves increase or the pressure increases, the erms increase, and then it's like an exponential scale, like a roller coaster, basically just falling down.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a roller coaster because they get quicker.
Ah, right.
So that's what's happening is we get quicker. Best way I describe this is bit back to front. Imagine that when you're speaking, it's a printer printing. So you're printing out all this information as quick as you can. So the paper's coming out as quick as possible.
Yeah.
But you've not got time to get your thoughts in alignment, to deal with any questions. So you're trying to put the paper in, but the printer's just spitting out really, really quickly. So you get a bit of a,
Right, okay.
So when you're speaking really, really quickly, which most people do when the adrenaline's high, when they're stressed, when they're thinking, get me out of this situation right now.
Yeah.
They want it over and done with. So they speak as quickly as possible, but their brain hasn't got a chance to put the information in order, even if they know it.
Yeah.
Therefore, we get a paper jam. So then we carry on and then we carry on. It's like sprint, refuel, sprint, refuel. So it's it's purely down to pace.
So you're saying that if you slow the pace down,
100%.
the erms should reduce.
100%.
Is there also something in it that, because I'm purposely now think like, I nearly did it then, just to be clear, nearly came out of my mouth.
Let it out.
Awkward,
we're all friends here.
the awkward silences that get created. So there's some really interesting speakers where they are very comfortable with that. So you could ask me a question. I don't know what the question would be like, how does X, Y, and Z work? And then I sit there and go, okay, this and this and this. And I've seen that, but then most people, I mean, it goes back to your point before about how your brain's not catching up with your mouth. Straight away.
Yeah, but it's normal.
I could literally, that happened then as I was thinking about my next.
Yeah, and it's normal. I didn't sit there and think, there's an, let me write that down. It's normal.
So where I was going with that was, is it also because we don't like them silences?
Yeah.
In the middle, the bits where
it's exposing.
Yeah, basically.
I would give an example here, which I absolutely loved. So, like him or loathe him, I was listening to Steve Bartlett's podcast. This was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I was listening to the podcast. So again, I've got no audio, no visual, sorry. And I was walking down Princess Street in Manchester. I remember it quite clearly, listening to this podcast, and it was really good. And it was a little bit rehearsed, scripted, in a sense of the person would ask a question, he would give an answer. The person, pretty back and forth. And then she asked a question, and it was a good question. I can't remember for the life of me what it was, but she asked this question, and this is what I heard, genuinely. So, Steve, how would you deal with X, Y, Z? And I remember getting my phone out and going, have I paused this in my pocket or something?
Right. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Then when he gave his answer, I noticed that because he said something like, that is a really interesting question, or I've never thought of it from that perspective. And then he gave his answer, and I have never listened so intently in my life.
Right.
Because I was like, I'm getting what is there. Not generic, not, this is what I say in every interview. I'm getting what you are. You've thought about this and you've constructed an answer. So I always say to people, we know that we think about things. We know that. So that pause is your way of telling your audience, I value what you're saying. I want to work out an answer. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to take the space to do that.
Yeah.
And it was absolute. I've listened to all different types of podcasts. That moment will always stick with me because I have never listened so intently and thought that was brilliant, because it wasn't just generic back and forth. It's a dramatic pause, but unintentional.
Unintentional.
Or intentional, depends, yeah.
But it's the age-old thing of like doing the opposite of what you instinctively want to do in that scenario, then create something that's different. And people, people hook in. The examples I was thinking of are, and I did that the other day with a podcast where I just was paused, or what's going on here? But it was truly down to they were just deeply thinking about the questions and the answers. And if you're watching the video, then obviously it makes more sense because you'll see someone and they'll be like, and this body language is taken to the mix. Okay, that's really interesting.
Maybe, okay, so if there isn't a video, thinking out loud, this is the one I would use. So if someone asks me a question, I would go, thinking out loud, so they know.
Right, okay.
And then they know that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Thinking out loud, then I'm going to answer.
Right, okay.
Because that is what I'm doing. I'm literally thinking out loud. I'm not giving you a stock response.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot. I'll be doing presentations in different forms of coaching scenarios, different topics, different, people. I'll get asked a question and I don't know it off the top of my head because
you can't get all the information out.
And I'll go, okay, thinking out loud with that one. And it also opens the floor up for
it's human
conversation.
It's also human, isn't it? It's sort of I think you're spot on. I think I when you said that, then I was like, oh yeah, I've seen you do that. I've been
to you. What are we having for tea?
Yeah,
thinking out loud. I don't know. I can't cook.
I've seen you do that, but then what happens is you react like that, and then you can feel like the audience go, oh,
yeah,
like okay, and it's just coming back to that point of like it makes it human, and that's why the AI thing kicked in before, because what I think we're starting to see is this kind of if you just listen to audio that has been processed in that way, you're going to believe that that's the way that people speak, and it's not true, and it kind of upsets the wrong word, but there's something that doesn't sit right with the fact that it's a default option. It's
just
not like
a bit jarring, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not like a deeply rooted configuration that if someone's doing it too much, you can improve it. It's it's a bit like the filters on video calls. Like it's sort of like, well, you're ugly, so here, filter.
I use them all the time.
Me too as well.
Oh, good. Okay, so I'm sorry. Oh no, mine aren't by accident. Oh, she's looking ropey today. Let's go up that scale.
On that note, then, does this work the same with video and online communication? So if I'm sat on a Zoom call doing a conversation with my team, what are the similarities and what are the differences between that versus me? Do people struggle more with that or less with that?
Bit of both. From my experience, a bit of both. The main thing I've noticed with, or that I work with in that space, is when we're talking now, you can see everything. You can see my eyes, you can see how I'm communicating, there's an energy.
Yeah.
You don't get that through a Teams call, especially if you're on a group call and the person's this big.
Yeah.
So the only thing I would say, if we are doing Teams presentations or Zoom or whatever that would be, is we just have to be slightly more, think of it as a dial, we just have to be slightly clearer with our non-verbal communication. So if we're on a call and you ask me a question and I need to think about it, I can't go, because you're not going to see that.
Right, okay.
So I might go, or I might just give you just a bit more, even a lean back or just something to let you know there's that or I might just verbally communicate it and go, let me think about that one. So, and be very open with it.
Yeah, because I suppose that'll stop someone else jumping in because they think the silence is there, which is the whole video stuff is I imagine there's a whole raft to talk about in that sense. But in terms of if I was about to do a presentation on Zoom, I am way more comfortable than if I was to say, I could do a 1,000-person presentation on Zoom and barely notice. Whereas if you said 10 people in the office today, there's a presentation.
Yeah.
There'd always be that initial.
Yeah, because there's a barrier. There's a bit of there's a safety mechanism. There's also the chance, genuinely, think about how you work. Computer, office, chair, sat down.
Yeah.
So you're in your safe space. Nothing bad happens there.
Yeah.
It's just you code in, you get brought cups of tea,
Really?
Yeah. But nothing bad. So there's a safety there. The interesting flip reverse that is, and a lot of people experience that 100%. Also, you're on a call with a lot of other people, so that we don't have that
single focus. Right. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, because everyone's going to be looking at everyone else's.
Or there's a screen. Or you're sharing most video calls. I'm just going to share my screen. There we go.
Which shoves you into the corner, basically. So you barely.
As you can see, next slide. It's just a totally different dynamic.
Yeah.
My argument for that is, and for me personally, I know that's your experience, and a lot of people say that.
Yeah.
I'm the other way around.
You prefer to be in person.
100%.
So I
doubt.
I definitely prefer to be in person because I think you get more from you can. So if I'm doing a talk rather than a presentation, then having that audience to look at and go, oh, I need to speed this bit up, or I need to slow this bit down, or there's intrigue over there. It's wonderful for communicating ideas, but from a nerves point of view, the nerves are a lot less on video than they are in.
Right.
I think the fear point of view, should I say?
We're scratching the surface with it now, and this is where I could go.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to hold me back with some of this. Not in a bad way. I just mean in a time sense.
Go.
This is because a lot of people, when we talk about public speaking, there's where we kind of started this conversation. What do we normally see? Rushing, erms, lack of train of thought, mumbling, stumbling, diction problems, all of that kind of all that mumbling. Yeah, we see all of that. That is all down to, so that they're the physical symptoms.
Right.
But that is coming from the mindset piece. And this is where people miss it with public speaking. You could tell someone to slow your pace down.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
It's like saying, don't worry about it.
It's absolutely no point. We have to look at the actual root cause. And the root cause comes down to, what am I worrying about? So as you said there, you're worrying about how you are on that presentation. When I'm public speaking, I flip. It's not about me. Public speaking isn't about me. It's about what my audience receive. What's my intention? So when I go into a room, whatever that would be, if I'm public speaking, it is, what do I want them to feel? How do I want them to receive this? What's the problem I'm solving for them? So even if I'm pitching, what problem have they got for me to be in that room? So my public speaking is all about them. If I can't see them, that little bit of my brain's going, what if this? What if that? Whereas for some people that think about public speaking, it's, how am I coming across? Like it's about me.
I see. The two, right, okay.
Yeah. So for public speaking, and this is the high level stuff for me, is it's not about us.
Yeah.
It's not about how we look, how we come across. No, it's about what's your intention? How are you trying to get that message across? What's the problem you're solving for your audience?
Right, okay.
And you only know if you've done that, if you can get that energy back.
Yeah.
Whereas most people think of public speaking as, I'm stood here, what do I give them? How do I present? Shiny, this, that, and the other. Therefore, if you're on Zoom, you can control that. It doesn't matter what happens, what they think, because you can control you.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
So for me, that is the crux. If we can look at public speaking, presenting, any form of communication, it's one-sided unless we know our intention, how we want that person to feel, the information we want them to receive, the problem we're solving.
Yeah.
As soon as you frame it on that, it's no longer about, oh my God, I'm really exposed. You're not. If we were having a conversation in the street and I wanted to share something with you, I wouldn't be thinking, oh my God, I'm stood here and he's looking at me and I'd be thinking, oh, I need to tell you about this, because my intention is to tell you about this new product or this new shop I've been to or whatever.
So the very act of saying it's public speaking, or the very act of saying you're doing the presentation, changing the actual to the wrong, it's changing the focus to the wrong thing.
Yeah. It's about you.
Interesting.
You're doing this, you're exposed, you're on your own. Because ultimately, when we think about it, going right back to the beginning, we are tribal animals. So this is why a fear of public speaking is completely real. Yeah. And it makes total sense, because we are not designed to be on our own. Going back however many years, that was death. That was danger. That was, you're exposed, you're vulnerable, you're going to lions, tigers, bears, all of that.
Yes.
I don't know if you'd get the Lion, Witch in the Wardrobe and the... Because it doesn't matter.
Good.
Stagey, yeah. But the Dorothys. So that is exposing. So it makes total sense that we would feel exposed.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure it's not about that. It's about what am I trying to deliver to this person? How can I help them? How can I inspire them? What's the problem?
That's really interesting. It's flipping the script that actually nobody probably cares about you, and they care about what you're saying or what you're delivering or what you're telling or sharing, etc., etc. And flipping the script on that changes the intent a little bit, which means you don't worry about, you're actually worrying about the message then and not about the...
Right. And so if you're worrying about the message, then if I said to you, oh, slow down when you're speaking, and you're thinking, okay, she said I need to slow down while I'm speaking, so no. If I said, how do your audience pick up this information? How do you want them to, what's going to be best for them? Well, they need to be able to hear it clearly. Okay, so if they're hearing it clearly, what do you need to do? Take a breath, make sure that I'm communicating to a point where they understand me. Yeah. So you'll naturally slow down.
Yeah. And again, it's just that thing, if you take the focus off, they're not looking at me, they're not judging me.
Yeah.
Then
they're here for the information.
Then you flip the switch.
Yeah. So I always say to people, maybe as a top tip, if you're doing a presentation, speaking, feedback, difficult conversations, what is your intention? So even if you've got to give bad feedback to somebody, is your intention to be nasty, to upset them? Probably not.
Yeah.
It's probably to maximize their opportunity of success in the business.
Yeah.
So my intention going into that meeting to give bad news is actually, I want to help you. This is what I've got to tell you, but my intention is to help you, to come up with a plan, to work through this. So I've got a positive intention. Doesn't mean I'm hop skipping into that meeting really excited. It's still going to feel uncomfortable. That's completely normal.
Yeah.
But my intention is positive, as opposed to, oh my God, they're going to hate me. They're going to think I'm awful. It's not about me.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting.
So even with pitches, you're pitching to a company, they've got a problem. Otherwise, you won't be in the room.
Yeah, they're not interested in the way you do it's the wrong word, but you get the point where they're interested in the message you're delivering.
So then your thought process is, as opposed to, oh my God, it's a pitch. No, it's not. It's a chance for you to help somebody. My example would be if you went into the doctors and said, oh, do you know what, I'm really not feeling well, or these are my symptoms. The doctor wouldn't go, oh my God, you're staring at me like this is really exposing.
That's
because they want to help.
Yeah, and the people in the audience generally will be there because they want to hear what you want to what you're going to say.
Okay. Panel discussion. Why do you go? We've done so many events that we've been to as guests or as delegates, Why do you go to the panel talk? When you look at the thing and you go, oh, that talk sounds interesting. Why is it interesting?
Yeah, because you want to hear what that person says. You're not.
Because you probably are stuck with something, or you want to look at it from a different perspective, or it's something that you don't know anything about and you want to bring it into your work. So they're only there because they want to receive some information. So if I'm on the panel, I'm thinking, what problems, quote unquote, do these audience members have?
Yeah.
And how can I solve that? How can I share that? As opposed to, oh my God, I'm sat on this chair and there's 200 people staring at me.
Yeah. I will say as well, I was just thinking then that I've seen a couple of people flop when it comes to public speaking.
Right.
Hard.
What was the recipe?
I've seen the erms accelerate to the point of like you could tell that person knew what was happening.
Yeah.
And then they skip through stuff quickly. But what I was about to say was nobody cares. As in, like, everyone was like, oh, that wasn't great speaking. Cool. Who's coming to the pub later? So, and I think that was the big switch for me, was that it's a bit like being in the gym, like nobody cares.
Yeah.
So, or tomorrow it won't be, it's gone basically.
Yeah.
But we do, like I said at the start, we have that fear that if I get caught out public speaking and it goes wrong, that next year someone's going to say something, or the year after someone's going to say something, and it never
especially
really
with
works
technology, because it's probably recorded.
Yeah, that's an obvious conundrum in the modern times, but
you don't actively look for, if it's recorded and it wasn't great, people won't watch it, so it's not going to appear.
Yeah.
So you're not going to show me when this person did
no,
it's not going to happen.
No. Okay, so because I think this is a topic that we're going to come back to, I think, numerous times, because I think we've talked about things like giving feedback, we've talked about giving negative feedback, and I think there's a ton of more specific advice for different, what I think we've highlighted, or I've just highlighted in my head, is the range that public speaking covers.
Oh,
like you say, it's not just, and it's very different advice if you're stood up in a theatre to 1,000 people than it is if you're stood up with 10 people. There might be some principles, but there's more specifics for each one. So I think we can come back to them. So if we're just to say, I mean, you've given one already, and obviously we've talked about erms quite a bit. Is there a technique that we can use to, if you know that you say a lot, I'm one of them people, what technique can we use to improve the situation? Not to remove the erms completely, but just to make sure that we're keeping that calmness so that it doesn't increase.
Again, we could go, this is days and hours of work, but let's go into, so the erms are the result, they're the outcome. The problem is the panic. Oh my gosh, this is terrifying, or I feel unsure. That's where we need to do the work to start with.
Okay.
What's your intention? What's the problem I'm solving? Where have I been successful before? We need to do the mindset work first. The next piece is, why are we rushing? We're rushing because we're stressed and anxious and all of these things.
Just trying to get out of the situation.
Yeah.
That's why I'm rushing.
If you're anxious and worried, where do you normally feel it?
In my stomach area.
Yeah, and it tightens, doesn't it? So if your stomach's tight, you're not breathing properly at all.
Right.
You can't, because your diaphragm's here.
Yeah.
You've said to me before about you find that you've kind of...
historically, I found, like, again, I think for me, the journey with speaking was really bad at it. I'm not great at it now, but I know that I think I can control them symptoms. So the erms and the breathing were the big one for me, where the breathing would just go, and I get like to a sentence and I'd be like, and I couldn't get my breath back in.
And then what message is that sending?
More panic, I'm guessing. Right.
100%.
Okay.
So there's the direct link between your breath. You've got stress receptors at the top of your lungs.
Right.
So if you're shallow breathing, which most people do, breathe in. Why? How does that? Why would you get smaller when you breathe in?
You're breathing from the top. When you breathe from
you should expand. Your lungs are filling with air. That's like blowing up a balloon and expecting it to get smaller.
Right. Yeah.
So you should expand when you breathe in, but completely normal. If people are stressed or anxious, they hold it in the stomach. Even if you're listening to this now, people will probably be. You might be doing it. I'm doing it because of how I'm sat.
Yeah.
I'm slightly holding my stomach. If my stomach's tight or tense, or your abdominal wall, your diaphragm can't move properly. So if it can't move properly, you're going to naturally clavicular breathe. So a bit more up here. Now, that's exactly what you do before you go into sprinting or in a boxing match, because you want to get that adrenaline super high. So if my adrenaline's super high and I'm already going into a situation where I feel a bit uncomfortable, I'm just going to go 100 miles an hour to get it done as quick as I can. I'm going to speed as quick as I can. I'm trying to do it, and I'm holding my stomach. And as you can see, I'm going as quick as I can. I can't think straight because my head's going, Jesus Christ, you are in fight, flight, freeze right now. So,
it's just a big snowball effect.
Massively.
Driven by that.
But that's also things like, I know we won't touch on it today just because of time, but that's where the lump in the throat comes from, because you're not breathing. So everything goes, The last thing, if you're in fight, flight and freeze, the last thing your body needs to do is relax your vocal cords so you can sing like Beyonce. It closes the lot down because you don't need it. It's all breath.
What's interesting about that is, obviously, we've done some work on public speaking, just even stuff that I was doing. And there's loads of techniques, but the only thing I'm taking from like the conversation today is like, actually the root, there's a lot of complex problems, but there's almost like a simplicity in the root cause, which is addressing that fear, uncertainty, so that you don't let the other stuff snowball out.
That's it.
And I guess it will manifest in different ways for different people. Yeah. Some people do some people breathe incorrectly.
People mumble and don't really use their mouth much.
They'll look down, or just try and keep yourself small, all that kind of stuff. So, but it's I don't want to say fixable, that's the wrong word, but it's a way to improve it, basically.
Completely. You do the mindset work.
Yeah.
Next bit is got to be the breath. So just to give people, they might be sat there thinking, okay, well, how am I supposed to breathe?
I'm really focusing now on breathing deep.
You're doing really well.
Thanks. It actually feels nice, though. That's what's mad about it. I just realized then, I was like, oh yeah, that feels nice.
So the idea would be breathing, when you inhale, you don't want this to happen. Does that look relaxing? Obviously, I'm overdoing it, but it's not
chilled.
With your 16 chins. When you breathe in, you want to expand. So breathe in, fill your body with air, stomach expands. And then as you exhale, that's when you speak. You speak on the exhale. That's how we create sound. The vocal folds vibrate by the air passing through them, a bit like a clarinet or a woodwind instrument. Mm-hmm. If you blow, we create sound. If you're not breathing out and there's no air passing the vocal folds, then you get this Donald Duck sound, and it's tight, and it's, people will say that their voice goes up when they speak. That's really normal. That's all right.
Pitched,
all because of the breath. So again, if you said to somebody, just make sure you speak slower and you relax your voice a bit more.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's not, but that's what we're getting at here. That's not actually the problem.
No.
The problem is the underlying problem, which has resulted in these outcomes. Yeah. Okay.
So just to give people, I'm just aware that I'm touching on giving help and then not.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm having a great time. To be fair, so I'm learning loads. So
we'll sack off date night. We'll just carry on doing this. What a treat for everyone. I'll invoice you.
Yes, please.
Why were you so excited by that?
I'm not going to pay it. As long as we can carry on.
Yeah. So you want to inhale. So when you're inhaling, your belly expands, making sure you're super, super relaxed. And then as you're exhaling, the belly draws in. A bit like yoga, Pilates, things like that. So just making sure that before you do a presentation, inhale, belly expands. You're trying it now, aren't you?
Big time, yeah.
I don't know how sensitive these microphones are. You can probably hear like intense snorting from us. And then exhaling, and the belly just falls back down. So you get smaller as such. So when you inhale, you get bigger because you're filling with air. And as you exhale, you get smaller. And it addresses your central nervous system. So your adrenaline will reduce.
That's a big one, I think. That's a big one I learned was just even before going on to do something. Doing that for like 3 or 4 minutes, everything just felt like here rather than like up here. So
and already, if you're up there, your brain's going, okay, what's going on? Let's get ready to fight.
Then you get on stage and you're like, I'm like Lim and I do this and
I think I've seen that version.
That was a version. There's I'm sure there's videos out there of the early days.
But yeah, so that's, again, I have no idea what time we're on, just so you know.
No, and I think what I think that's been really useful because I've learned loads, but also there's a ton of topics there that we can
without a doubt. I want to touch on going forward at some point, the diction piece, more into the breath work.
Yeah.
The mindset stuff, that's a given.
Breathing, I think, is really important.
But obviously, we'll do the breath work.
That's a particularly area of interest for you as well. Well, I think that's really useful. And I think that there's nobody, like you said at the start, there's nobody that I've met that walks up to me and goes, do you know what? I love public speaking.
Yeah. For the first time ever. I'm doing my first ever pitch and I am
so excited. Like, I just can't wait to get out there and stand there in front of.
If you are listening to this though, and that's you, absolutely amazing.
You've got a superpower.
But remember though, adrenaline and excitement do present the same. So even if you're excited, think about a child who's excited. They speak at 100 miles an hour because they're really excited. So you could fall into the same challenge.
I see. So because your body's still in that state, you could still, okay, fine.
Just because
you're excited doesn't mean that's a good thing.
You've changed that perception from the adrenaline's still there. And we want the adrenaline. It's about being able to control it. So even if you are excited, and I often find myself falling into this category, I get so passionate about these subjects. I might listen back and think, oh, you've got a little bit too excited there. And I've maybe spoken too quickly. Because the adrenaline comes up, I get excited. It's not panic or nerves, it's excitement, but it's still adrenaline. And adrenaline will still make you power faster than usual. So it's just being aware.
It's out of your control then as well. You're just doing it.
But again, your breath will help.
Just settle everything down.
Bring it back.
That's technique that I use all the time before any kind of serious feedback conversation or presentation, etc.
I've noticed you do it in the house when you need to tell me, like, I've crashed the car again, or that's usually. Have you parked in a bush today?
It was a particularly bad year last year. That's all I can say. But on that bombshell,
I have noticed you come in and gone. Just the front of the car, Kathy. It doesn't look like it did when you left this up. But you've used that breath work. 10 out of 10.
Thank you. It was very.
So for anyone who's listening, who's thinking, I don't need to public speak and present. Everyday life, when you're dealing with challenges, we'll go with
challenges, and
use it. It brings the adrenaline down. That's a different topic.
We'll do a topic on breath work. But it is worth saying that all of these topics are covered on the platform as well, aren't they?
They are.
And there's in-depth courses into all of the things we've spoken about. But I would just like to say,
when you say the platform as well, just in case anyone's thinking what you're even on about.
I just say the platform.
So we have a tech platform called Be Your Own Coach, which it houses coaching and development resources from short videos, long-form courses, live sessions, and it's all about personal and professional development.
That's it. And it touches on all the things that we've spoken about today.
There's a course on public speaking, mindset, the voice, the lot. Have a look. Head over to the website. Link below. Can we do that? Can we put a link below? We'll put a link in the comments.
If you stare at the camera and point, I can tell you that I'm going to put it
link below.
Put it in a totally different place.
So I'll look like an idiot.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Cheers. Good. Link below.
But I did just want to say, I think we've done very well here because there has been a sleeping Labrador under this.
Yes, desk. Only the one today. We didn't want to go too far.
There has been no disruptions.
We've done well.
Even someone banged a door outside and nobody arose. So that is good. But the final thing is you have also launched a newsletter, which is a weekly specific coaching tips, such as the thing we discussed today.
100%.
And you can sign up to that now.
100% on the website.
That's it. Go to the website, beyourowncoach.com. We'll stick a link to it again in the
where are you going to put it?
The description. We'll just put it somewhere.
Brilliant. Good.
Somewhere good.
Yeah.
But you can sign up there and that'll give you weekly
coaching tips. We've done one on time management or the myth of time management. This week's will be public speaking. We've also done one on overcoming anxiety or working with anxiety. So it's a multifaceted,
but very specific, short, sharp bursts of help.
Oh yeah, it's not a kind of Lord of the Rings style novel. It's very short, sharp, to the point.
There we go. So get to the website, get signed up, we're good to go. And we will be back next week.
Not at the
we need to say something else now, not the kitchen table.
It is a kitchen table though.
Back in the studio.
Yeah, it's
back to you in the studio next week. Yeah.
Back to you in the studio.
Next week.
Okay,
have a wonderful week. We hope that was very useful.
You're right there, public speaking for half an hour.
We'll do a course afterwards.
Brilliant, great work.
Have a good week, everybody, and thank you for listening.
Bye.